Happy for you.
Might wrap up now. Senator Roberts, you have the call for 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you all for attending today. I'd just like to set the context. Al Jazeera is a Qatari state-owned and funded global news outlet. Al Jazeera is linked with terrorist organisations, including the Muslim Brotherhood, and provides coverage biased in favour of the Muslim Brotherhood. The ABC has had a deal to broadcast unedited material provided by Al Jazeera on the ABC and through SBS. Could you please tell me, Mr. Anderson, what is the nature of the deal that the ABC has with Al Jazeera to broadcast Al Jazeera material, or provided by Al Jazeera?
Senator, I'm going to have to take that on notice. I can't give you the nature of the deal, other than we do broadcast material that comes from other news providers from time to time.
You can't describe the partnership?
No, Senator, I can't.
Are the arrangements, including content sourcing and rebroadcasting of Al Jazeera material, being scrutinised by an appropriately senior ABC person designated for this purpose?
Senator, I'd say that need to comply with editorial policies, but I might refer to Mr McMurtry, who's editorial director.
Senator, yeah, we would apply the same scrutiny that we do to any other arrangement we might have with a third party. I don't believe there is very much Al Jazeera content playing on ABC platforms at all.
So you would comply with Section 13, External Funding and Relationships, Section 1 on Standards of ABC editorial policies, with regard to use of Al Jazeera material?
We would certainly comply with ABC editorial policies, yes.
And do you have any idea who the people would be that would ensure that compliance? Who they are?
It would be me, and it would be people who report to me.
Thank you. Have these standards been breached on a regular basis, given that the ABC has aired unedited programs of Al Jazeera biased material for the programs, News Hour and News Grid, and provided material for ABC News Radio?
Senator, I would need to take that on notice to go through it.
Please, will you take that then? What Al Jazeera material is still being broadcast by the ABC, and how often?
Again.
Sorry, again, I would need to provide you with a detailed response on that, but I don't believe that there is very much Al Jazeera content playing on ABC platforms at all.
Could you reply with that material?
Certainly.
Please?
Sorry, Senator Roberts, can I just ask a follow-up? Mr McMurtry, you said you're responsible and the people who report to you for scrutinising the information, which means, to my mind, you should have a good awareness of how much comes through because you scrutinise it.
So I lead the editorial policies part of the ABC. We need to ensure that what we broadcast on all our platforms and publish online is consistent with our editorial policies. We have very large content divisions. They publish content and they commission content, and there's a very strong upward referral protocol within the ABC. There are editorial policy advisors who work with each of those content divisions. But we would deal with issues that are put forward to us on a case-by-case basis. We wouldn't engage, my area would not engage directly with Al Jazeera around any content arrangements, just as we wouldn't engage directly with any third party around content that is rebroadcast or played on ABC platforms. We're at the compliance and ensuring that there is consistency with our editorial policies.
Senator Roberts.
Thank you, Chair. What verification, due diligence did you do to make sure that the reporting of the ABC, by the ABC of the Al Jazeera hit piece on One Nation was fair and balanced and accurate?
Senator, that piece, as I understand it, was brought to us. We often enter into arrangements with third parties when we're acquiring a documentary. And then we assess whether or not we believe that that documentary is consistent with our editorial policies. There would have been an editorial advisor working with the ENS team on that piece, and I'm happy to provide you with more information about the scrutiny and the process that we went through with that.
Yes, please, because we may have further questions on that in the future.
I just want to know, did you actually pay for any content?
My understanding, Senator, you mean with regard to the program How to Settle a Massacre?
That's right.
We acquired that, so we didn't acquire that through news, so we acquired that through, as Mr McMurtry said, entertainment specialist, where we do a lot of our acquisitions that sit on our platforms. Sometimes those deals are that we...
Not a deal. I've asked the question.
Yep.
Did you pay any sum of money for that program?
We ended up with, I believe... Look, I'll again take that on notice, Senator. I've got the right amount at $5,000, but I believe it might have been in kind for access to the ABC archive for archive footage. I think that's the answer. I'll confirm that on notice for you, in which case it would have been a value rather than an actual payment.
Did you reach out to One Nation or the president of the party to actually confirm that it was true and correct, what was being put out to the public?
Senator, I don't know that detail. What I do know is that before it aired, it went through our legal department for pre-publication, and I know it went through our...
That's not the question I've asked. Did you reach out to One Nation for verification of truth in what was put out?
Senator, I don't know if any member of the ABC reached out to One Nation or not, and I would have to take that on notice.
Do you realise the political implications of running that program prior to a federal election? And was that taken into consideration?
Senator, quite often we will put programs to air as they come to us, as they are ready, and they're often inconvenient. I'm sure that we put that to air because we thought it was in the public interest.
Could you provide us with a date at which negotiations on putting that to air first came to the ABC, please?
Yes, Senator, I can.
I'd like to know when Al Jazeera first approached you or when your staff first approached Al Jazeera.
Yes, Senator.
Would you say that the whole program was then fair and balanced?
Senator, we assessed that against their editorial policies, and we believed that, yes, that program complied with our editorial policies to be able to put to air.
So it was one-sided, but you still regard it as mutual.
Senator, it was an
mutual
acquisition.
charter?
We were not involved in producing that program.
Would you be willing to release the full footage so that everyone could assess whether or not it was fair and balanced?
Senator, we don't have the full footage because we didn't produce it. Al Jazeera produced it.
It had a significant impact in this country. Surely that's your responsibility to make sure it was fair and balanced, and we'd like to see the full footage from Al Jazeera, and you could hold them accountable.
Senator, when acquisitions come to us, and there are many that come to us that make up our schedule, they are not delivered with the full footage that was drawn from in order to produce the program. That is not how that would normally work, and we don't have the full footage.
Senator Roberts,
you would need to...
I'm just going to
follow up a question.
Yep.
You'd need to contact Al Jazeera.
Mr Anderson, I'm not defending another political party here, but on a matter of principle, you said before any material that you acquire has to meet your editorial standards. You've just brushed aside Senator Roberts' question about whether or not you fact-checked or verified with the subject of a very critical piece of footage or program by saying it was acquired. There's a contradiction there in what you've just said. Either it meets your editorial standards, which means you scrutinised it, or it doesn't. To say to the committee that because you bought it, you didn't have to scrutinise it, doesn't match with what you told us just 5 minutes ago. Could you clarify exactly how you do work with acquired material?
Senator, it does need to meet our editorial policies when we acquire material as well as when we produce material. The details, I didn't see that documentary before that went to air, but it certainly went through the process that it would normally go through with an editorial manager that would have reviewed it prior to it going to air. I specifically asked at the time whether it did or it didn't, and got the response that it did. If you want more information on the process, I can defer to Mr McMurtry, whose editorial manager is actually reported to him.
As a matter of principle, does your editorial policy require that an ABC journalist making your own material would seek to verify or at least give the right of reply to a subject who is criticised or negatively portrayed in a piece that the ABC is putting together?
Yes, Senator, we would.
But you can't tell us the name of the people who are involved. The editorial director can't tell us.
The name of the people involved.
in scrutinising that and making sure it was fair and balanced and complied with editorial
Well,
standards?
sorry, Senator
no, but-
Roberts, if we just come back to this point, if you're saying your editorial policy requires that one of your journalists would have to have consulted or at least given the right to reply to someone, but you're saying that from what One Nation is saying is that they didn't have any approach from the ABC to verify their position on what was put to air. That would appear, prima facie, to be a breach of your editorial policies.
Senator, if I can be of help, I have got a bit more information now. The ABC became aware of the documentary in the week of the 28th of January. Al Jazeera made an approach to the ABC because these questions have been put before. The ABC's acquisition of the documentary was confirmed in the week prior to broadcast on the 26th of March. Mr Anderson is quite right. The ABC agreed to a licence fee of $5,000 for the rights, but it was provided to Al Jazeera in the in-kind use of ABC archival footage. On the precise details of the scrutiny that was applied before the program went to air, I would need to come back to the committee with details on
Well,
that.
if you could, because again, I'm not defending One Nation here, I'm just looking at the principle
I understand.
that you've said you scrutinise according to your own standards what you require, but it appears here as though there is a lack of applying the same standards in terms of giving a right of reply to somebody who's adversely reflected on in an article.
Certainly. So I don't want to assume that anything did or didn't happen until I can come back to you with more information. But certainly in the aftermath, there would have been many requests, and a central tenet of our policies is that we make sure that we present relevant perspectives over time. It isn't always possible to cover every facet of every story in the initial broadcast. I accept that this was a piece that was brought into the ABC, and I want to be able to answer your question. I just need to get the details
Sure.
for you.
Senator Roberts, I've taken some of your time, so another 2 minutes, please.
Thank you. So just to clarify my understanding, Al Jazeera and ABC first started discussing this in early January of that year, and 5 months later put it to air, just before an election.
The election timing wouldn't have been, from our perspective...
Is that correct?
It is, but the election timing from our perspective would not have been a key factor.
How much per year has been paid to Al Jazeera over the last 5 years and each year?
We'll have to take that on notice, Senator.
Yes, please. So can you get back to us?
We will.
Is the ABC aware that the owners of Al Jazeera support Hamas, a recognised terrorist group bent on the destruction of Israel and aimed at murdering people around the world?
Are you denying you didn't want to weaken the gun laws?
Order.
Senator,
You're paying an organisation that funds terrorism and
Senator
supports
Roberts,
terrorism.
let Mr Anderson answer the question.
Senator, quite aware of certainly conjecture around Al Jazeera and other organisations that exist throughout the world. But yes, I was aware of that, Senator.
So you're aware they fund and support... so as the ABC,
Well-
you're supporting terrorism with taxpayers' money?
No, Senator.
You're paying them money and they're...
Well, in the example we just gave to you, Senator, we've $5,000 in kind with regard to access to archival material. But I think that, well, we'll leave it at that.
One final comment. I'm very pleased to hear your pledge in response to Senator McGrath's question that the ABC regional areas will remain intact. It is a pleasure dealing with them. They're open and unbiased, possibly because they live in the local community. So we'd encourage, along with Senator Green, more of the regional focus.